we are showing you all the features and functions of Flex's new to the marketplace 12-inch double bevel sliding miter saw. What's up, everybody? My name is Vince. Welcome to the channel. I know what you're probably saying. Hey, Vince, how can there be new features and functions? I mean, double bevel sliders in the 12-inch variety have been out forever. And to that, I'll say to you, I'm going to give you an answer to that right after this message from our sponsor, VCG Construction. Want to help out the channel? Head on over to the merch store. You get hats, hoodies, t-shirts. Links will be in the description below. Welcome back, everybody. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Vince, you're overblowing this saw. I mean, how many more features can it have? I'm gonna use the term feature-rich. Yes, it is very feature-rich. Now, does it have more features than your 12-inch double bevel slider? Yeah, it probably has a couple more. But it's not necessarily about those couple extra features that your saw probably doesn't have, which I'm gonna get to in just a minute. It's more about the thoughtfulness of the implementation of features that I'm already used to and have used in my other saws. Like, for instance, here, the miter gauge, right? Instead of having maybe a screw handle here, it has more of, like I like here, this little push down handle. Here's the other thing that it includes. You can quickly move through the miter scale by pushing here at the front of this release, okay, and then slide through to your next position. Or what you can do is you can push down here at the back and that locks in. So you can slide back and forth to anywhere that you need without holding that button down. I like that. That's thoughtful because not every corner is 90 degrees. You hope for it, but it doesn't always happen. So you might not have to go to 45 degrees. Maybe you need to go to 44 degrees, or you have to go to 46 degrees. Slide past 45 degrees to 46 degrees. Boom, you're locked down, you're locked in place, okay? Vice versa, you could slide back to 44 degrees, locked down in place. My point is that unlike traditional or saws you've been using and I've been using, this is a feature I didn't have before. I would have to hold down my button and then lock my saw down. I like that. It's a small innovation that could shave lots of time off of your workday getting what you need to get done. I appreciate that. It does indeed have a stop here at 0, okay? But we also have a stop here at 15 degrees, 22.5 degrees. What I'm trying to illustrate here is, I push here at the front, I push down, I could slide off my stop, let up, and now I can stop at the next detent, 22.5 or 31.6. And finally, 45 degrees. Now, regardless if you're stopping at a detent or you're going to a position here that's not on a detent, I always still like to lock down. And the beautiful part is that this lockdown handle is really huge. It's big. It's nice, easy to grab onto. Slam it down, lift it up, beautiful. Continuing that theme is a feature here on the bevel that I really like and my carpenters really like. Here it is. Instead of having a locking handle back here that you have to loosen or buttons that we have to push here, we have a huge lever that allows us to lock and unlock the bevel scale. So now, once it's loose, we can then slide to our nearest stop and it will stop for us, okay? We lock down, we're able to make our cut. Once again, there are thoughtful stops at 45 degrees, 33.9, and 25.5, which are the most commonly used stops when you're cutting crown molding flat. If you want to find out how to cut crown molding flat and why I think it's the most accurate way to cut crown molding, you go to this video right here. The beautiful part is that the handle here is huge. It's easily accessible from the front of the saw. We're able to see our degrees. We have high-vis green for our readings. Once we're on our mark, we're able to easily lock down. Flex has included a very, very smooth and robust rail system for the slider feature. Some of you have said you don't like that the rails are at the rear of the saw. Yes, there are other miter saws that allow the saw to sit flat against the wall. The rails are stationary on the side of the miter saw, and the carriage itself slides without the rails as a single unit. This is going to be a workhorse, not only for finished carpenters, but they're talking about frame carpenters and form carpenters. This is built like a tank. The lineage of Flex saws goes way back. A lot of the knowledge and experience that was poured into this saw came from Skillsaw. The parent company of Flex is the parent company of Skillsaw, and it seems a lot of that robustness has been put into this saw. This is made to be a job site workhorse. If you have the space behind it, then I would suggest you could even make this your workshop saw, because this saw has another trick up its sleeve that makes it perfect for that scenario. We're gonna get to that in just a minute. But what a lot of you ask, and I see it in the forums, is, are Flex tools any good? Are they quality? How are they built? I think that maybe we should go over the saw itself to answer that question. Just to give you somewhat of an idea of how the machining on the saw is, if we take a look over the table, you will see that the table is unbelievably flat. Unbelievably flat. From left to right. Now, the saw has this little trick. It's a little party trick. You flip open these really nice oversized levers, and the table expands. And we could do that on both sides of this saw. And when you put your square on the table, you can see even out to this extended portion. It is very flat. Whew. Extremely flat. And that means that this table has been machined to an exact tolerance. It's beautiful. It's like 14 inches. Extend it out, takes it out to 20 and a half. These extensions actually add an additional around 6 to 6.5 inches fore and aft the blade. So you're talking about pretty much 13 additional inches of table space. And that should help with when you're cutting larger materials. Now, if you're cutting full length, 14, 16 inch pieces of molding, you're gonna need something longer, right? But in a pinch, this helps. Some of you will ask, is it zeroed on the miter and bevel scale? We'll bring our framing square. We bring our saw blade down, and we rest it at the rear of the fence. You could see, as that square meets the carbides on the saw blade, front to back, they're meeting exactly the same time. Boom, square. We could test the other side. As we come in, you can see this saw is zeroed precisely relative to the fence at 90 degrees. It's a beautiful thing. Now, some of you will probably wonder about how the fence is squared or the table is squared relative to the blade. And as you cut taller materials, that will have an effect. You can see, if we come in here, once again, we have our extension out on our table, and you can look down the saw blade where it's meeting the square. And this is a combination of the bevel accuracy as well as the table accuracy. And you can see that that blade is meeting that square from top to bottom, 100% contact the whole time. It's a beautiful thing. And why is that important? Because as the material grows, if the saw's off just a little bit, the discrepancy in the cut will get bigger and bigger. Also, you want it to be extremely accurate when you're doing very precise work, like pre-finished moldings, filler panels. That work has to be perfect. Otherwise, any gaps, you don't want to have to go back and fill them with anything, not even a colored filler that matches perfect, because everybody knows wood and filler, they're not the same thing. Some of you will ask, does the cut become any less accurate as it runs along its rails? Number one, the rails are ferociously robust and smooth. The other thing is that because they're so robust, all these ever really require is a maybe a little vacuuming or a wiping, and then we hit them with a little bit of silicone spray. And once again, they go back to being completely smooth, like glass. Let's just say you don't need all the capacity of a sliding miter saw. You're able to lock that down here at the rear, little wing nut. Okay, now you're locked in place. You're also able to create mortises here. You would set your depth with this screw. This is spring loaded, so it will hold in place. Once you set your depth, you'd then be able to run over your work at that predetermined depth. Then once you're done, you could zero it back out to get your full depth. Blade change is super simple. They've included a spindle stop here. Okay, so there's no battery in this, but you would engage that spindle stop. You can see that blade's locked in place now. You're able to get your included tool, and then boom, loosened up. You're ready to change your blade. Conversely, pop your new blade on, tighten her down, put your tool right back in its place. I gotta tell you, I love when there's a place for everything and everything's in its place. This way, you don't have to go looking for that tool later on if you have to change your blade when you're on site. You know exactly where it is. It's a beautiful thing. Conversely, if you ever did need to make any adjustments to your miter scale, your bevel scale, this same tool will allow you to make all of those adjustments. It's great. They have a bag here at the rear, but the port here is sized for most common dust extractors, which is really nice. You get that? Another great feature of this saw is its shadow cut or shadow line positioning system. You never have to worry about calibrating a laser because the light inside the housing of the saw casts a shadow over the blade. So wherever that blade is where your shadow will be. You see our shadow line here? Pretty cool. I know what you all came here for though. You want to see how accurately and fast it will cut. Let's get down to action. Now, if the saw is out at all, a real good test is to use something with a profile because it will express itself somewhere along the molding profile as you make your joint. Now, there's plenty of capacity against the fence for this molding, but there might be instances where you're cutting molding that's too tall to sit against the fence. It would interfere with the saw and carriage itself. At that point, you want to use the bevel function of your saw and cut flat. I know what you're thinking. How accurate is the saw when cutting flat? And the good part is that if I want to use the bevel function of the saw, all we got to do is put those little latches down, lock the fence in place. Same thing on this side over here. Lock the fence in place. It's not a huge, groundbreaking, mind-breaking innovation, but you ask yourself, if it's so simple, why don't other brands do it? We're at our D10 for 45 degrees. And once again, you can see how tight that is. So it doesn't matter if you're cutting flat or up against the fence. This saw is super accurate. The blade on there has really created a nice finish. You can go right to work finishing carpentry with this miter saw. It's a beautiful thing. Let's see how robust it is. We're cutting larger framing members because although I think this is perfect for finished carpentry, they have like frame carpenters and form carpenters in mind for this as well. First of all, the cut finish is beautiful. Here's the thing though that's really impressive. The speed in which the cut was made. Like literally no stall. I mean, I tried to go through that fast to see if I could get it to stall. I don't know what it's gonna take. Woo! I think it probably has something to do with the battery. It's a 10 amp hour stacked lithium pack that generates 2,520 watts or Newton watts. No, it's not Newton watts, it's just watts. And the thing is that when you're spinning these large diameter saw blades, you need a tremendous amount of watts along with a pack size for good runtime. If you don't have the runtime from the pack, as you deplete the battery, you will get stalling in the blade. When the blade slows down, that's what creates deflection in the blade and chatter through your material. Now, 2x material for framing and form carpentry, it wouldn't be ideal, but where blade chatter is a no-no, blade stalling is a no-no, is in hard finish woods, pre-finished woods, harder materials like oak, and for instance, we were on site cutting hickory. You can't get harder than hickory. It's not only good for smoking meats, it's good to make cabinetry out of because it's so durable. And our carpenter loved this saw, was able to make the cuts rapidly, didn't have to pussyfoot through the cuts to get his work done. Love the saw. Now, here's the other thing about these battery packs. We made all our cuts. You saw the speed I was going through the 2x. Took nothing out of this battery. This tool platform was built to take advantage of pouch lithium. That means more robust connectors. That means more robust connectors here at the saw, creating less resistance at the battery, less heat, more battery cycles, longer life for the tool, longer life for the motor in the tool. It's just built from the ground up to perform well. Now, here's the deal. Here's the party trick that I love the most about this saw. Because if you've been around the channel for any length of time, you will know when people ask me, hey Vince, what should I get for my first miter saw? Corded or cordless? Or they ask me, what do they think about X brand of tools or Y brand of tools for a miter saw or even a table saw for that matter? And I will say to them, well, that brand doesn't offer a corded version of miter saw. And if you're buying your first miter saw or your only miter saw, or you're just getting started in business, this is going to be your first miter saw, I always suggest buying a corded saw. You're not going to be throwing this thing around the job site. You're going to probably be at a cut station. And if you're going to be at a cut station, why do you necessarily need a battery? If there's power on site, what do you prefer to plug your saw in? Now, we've got no blade stall, or battery sag through this battery, but the reality is that battery technology comes at a price. These packs aren't inexpensive, and that means that although we can get 300 to 400% more charge cycles out of this pack, that means that eventually we would have to replace it if we're going to be using it day in, day out. What if you could extend the life of these battery packs by plugging high demand tools like table saws and miter saws into the wall? Well, that's what Flex lets you do with this adapter. Let's plug it in, see if it performs any differently. Beautiful part is, it plugs in just like any other battery pack. And I feel like when you have a cordless, corded option with your highly precise and miter saw, then smash the like button, because it's free for you to do, doesn't cost you a dime, plus you'll get 7 years of good luck. Let us know down below, do you plan on adopting this hybrid monster of a saw? Leave it all below, because we want to know. With that, I want to say I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Thanks a lot, everybody. I hope to see you all on the next one. Bye. Bye. Some of the very cool gang's been asking, does this AC adapter allow you to run all of your Flex tools on AC wall power? That's a negative.